Welcome to Headlines. This is David Lichtenstein. I want to put a disclaimer in advance. A lot of times I get phone calls. It's not for Yeshiva Bachram. Well, we're going to be talking about the protocols for Machlokes this week. How do we argue, both in Halacha, Hashkafa? So it may not be for younger. If you're younger than a certain age, if you're easily offended, you should not be listening to the program. You have it out there. That's a warning. So shut the radio. The phone line, hang up the phone line, which is a good opportunity for me to say, in the United States, our phone is 732-806-8700. In Israel, it's 02-372-0304. In England, 330-117-0250. You can get all our programs on Yeshiva World News, on Headlines on the App Store, either for Samsung or iPhone, Headlines Radio Show, or at our website, headlinestorah.com. And I am proud to say that on headlinestorah.com, I'm happy to say, we have the Maramakomis for all 140 shiurim have been put up by our wonderful expert in Maramakomis, Harav Hagoyin, Harav Yankee Berkowitz. So if you need to know any of our Maramakomis, you can just go there, click on headlinestorah.com, and you will get an exact copy of the Chazal, Rishon, Aharon, Gemara, etc. that we are quoting. So what are we speaking about this week? We want to speak about the protocols for Machlokes. There's been a lot of Machlokes in Eretz Yisrael. Does the Torah have protocols? Can we say anything we want? Can we call anybody any name? Are there any limits? Like, here's a little clip. Listen to this, what's going on in Eretz Yisrael today. So do we have protocols? You know, in a divorce, there are people who get divorced, and it's amicable, it's done respectfully. There are children involved. They want to preserve their own kavod, the kavod of their spouse, the kavod of the children, of the family. Look, people often disagree. Geshem she'ein partzufeim shavis, kach deyeseim shavis, Chazal tell us. We look alike, we think alike. Adam nivra yechidi. Each one of us is individual. It's more natural for us to disagree than to agree. We have our own opinions. One way to do it is get a restraining order against the spouse, probably claim that they were sexually molested the children, the most common thing, unfortunately, in divorces that the lawyers ask people to do. Lock up the bank accounts, hire the divorce lawyer, or tie-in that you could get outright, or we'll show you, we'll get even. That's one way. What's another way where it's done respectfully? Let's see. What do Chazal talk about that? How do Chazal talk about it? And I'll give you, I see this on my program. We speak about many controversial topics here. We speak about addiction in Halacha. We've spoken about Zionism, both sides, and very polite to both sides. Look, I'm not a Satmar. We've had two Satmar representatives, one from Rav Zalman Leib from, I believe that's Williamsburg, one from Rav Aharon. Both of them had their entire time to talk. There were no voices raised. So that's one way. And there are people who really, I don't know, it's the full moon maybe. Here, listen to our callers. Here are some very respectful callers.
I've listened to numerous shows, and I must say there's something very attractive and very charismatic and enjoyable, to say the least. I really enjoy it. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge, intelligence, and it is really a great forum. However, my concern is each sect in Klal Yisrael, each neighborhood or each community has their rabbi is not something to be taken lightly. It's the idea that us as humble and Talmidim and young people or old people, but people that don't have the experience and are not qualified to be Rabbanim, we have to listen and not ask questions about what our rabbi said.
Hey, Rabbi Lichtenstein, really appreciate your show. I think it's very educational, learn a lot from it, very insightful. I just wanted to say this week's show about abuse, I think, was really inappropriate. And me, as a entire, really, I felt I really shouldn't be listening to it. Thanks so much. I look forward to your next show.
Hi, I was just listening to the radio show about Satmar and Zionism, and I must say, as an outsider, I was really, it was unreasonable, like the way you had two sides, and then one of them you had so much respect for, and then the other one you just argued with and stopping in the middle of his words and not finishing what he had to say, and just basically like not even letting him get his point across. So you can't play favoritism when you make a debate. It has to be totally equal. All right. Thank you for your work. Bye.
And here are some people who, believe that if you don't agree with them, is what they say.
Fei! Käufer! Fei! Geht zurück zum Gehennen jetzt! Käufer! Käufer! Hi, I was just wondering if Rabbi David Lichtenstein Machshmei V'Zichrei was behind the Supreme Court's ruling today.
I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be fuming, and they're going to care about the Bizayin HaTorah of some British ox-fed like you, being Ravazed Torah, which is what you said.
This is a message for the reincarnation of Moses Mendelssohn. A son who appears named David Lichtenstein, who thinks he can Zalzal and Chazal and all the Gedolim, a pure Goylam and Apikairis.
I know many Bachrim that listen to the show, and they can mamish have a bad hashpah on Bachrim. So you're fairly chazak. I hold miyad. You have to stop saying Lashon Hara Barabim. Shlech chazak Rabim Genog! Stop it!
Hi, Reb David. I just listened to a show of yours. The mamish got me so sick that I think you're borderline kaifer.
Really think that you're not going to go to Gehenna for this?
So we will be speaking about something that's very important for Jews, because Jews disagree a lot. Right? So how do we disagree? Now and the second part of the program will be about halacha. Can you destroy property? Can you stop people from going to weddings? We'll hear Jonathan Rosenblum say, there are no people by the weddings. If there's a demonstration, they can come a few hours late. I have a daughter. She lives in Eretz Yisrael. Her husband's in Chilul. She works. So she couldn't get to her job one day. They were protesting. Are there halachas? Because I agree, it's Yerigval Yaver Shmat. Put your favorite adjective in here. Basically, it's do whatever you'd like. We'll have Yosef Fleischmann, and we will have also somebody from Peleg discussing that. But Yosef Fleischmann is the head of the largest Choshen Mishpat Koil in Eretz Yisrael. He trains more Dayanim in Choshen Mishpat than anybody in the world, certainly in authority. And next question is, Klal Yisrael, we have a big history of disagreement, right? In fact, the Gemara says that a bezdin that's unanimity, they all agree, kulei chayev, what's the halacha? The person is pata, because if the bezdin doesn't have a disagreement, that means they really haven't been thinking. How does that quote go? If two of us are thinking alike, one of us isn't thinking. That's what Chazal sort of say in this case, where it's a bezdin. So we have a history of disagreement, so what damage does it do? So let's disagree. Call your favorite, or in this case, unfavorite, Haredi who goes to the army, a Nazi, lie down on the road. Does it do, or is that in our Messiah to have debate? We will have an interview with Peleg spokesman Reb Chaim Aharon Tenenbaum, and we will discuss this with him as well. And the last thing I want to discuss, what can you do about it? If you've seen the pictures of Eretz Yisrael, the videos of people lying in the streets, etc., the screaming, ambulances being stopped, what can you do about it? That is today's program. So I'd like to start with, what are the protocols of machlekes? I mean, you had a really big disagreement with, put in, your mother-in-law, your wife, your spouse, your child, your father-in-law, your partner, your chavrusa. Is it okay? Let's open up the floodgates. What do Chazal say about it? Here's interesting. Who are two of the most biggest balei machlekes in the world? I mean, just for the sheer how it's affected us, is Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. And what does it say about Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? Beis Shammai said that a tsaras erva is mutter to the achim. And Beis Hill holds the children are mamzerim. Talk about a disagreement, one of many, many disagreements they had. And what does the Mishnah say? The Mishnah in Yevamah, standard Perek Aleph. The Mishnah say, even though they really disagreed about whether you're a mamzer or not, it's somewhat of a disagreement. What does it say? Even though elu mitarim ve'elu mitamim, lo nimnu oisin taharis elu al gabe elu. They would marry each within families. They would marry. They wouldn't marry the one who they held was a mamzer, but other people they would. What does that mean? I disagree with you, but I still respect you, and I could still do a shidduch with you. Tuma and Tara, we would still eat from each other. We would still live together. In fact, what does the Gemara say about the Gemara in Yevamah say about them? It says, Chiba v'reidus naigim zebezeh, love and friendship was among them. L'kayim hashenemar ha'emes v'hashalom ohavu. They agreed, just like two chavrusas, they disagree vehemently. And what does it say? V'yaftes Hashem alekecha. They start out as enemies, and they become friends, because it's not about personal. We're having a hashkafa disagreement. I don't call you names. Nothing personal. I don't attack you. And the Mishnah says, what the Mishnah in Avi says, what's the example of a machlokes that's l'shem shamayim? Machlokes of Hillel v'Shamai. V'she'enu l'shem shamayim, machlokes kairach v'adasei. So the Yaris Dvash, the great Rebbe Yonason, who knew a thing or two about machlokes, says something beautiful. He says, if a machlokes leads, how do you know if a machlokes is l'shem shamayim? He says, if at the end of the machlokes, we can still love each other, like Beis Shammai and Beis Hill, then you know it's l'shem shamayim. Because if you have one hashkafa, and I have another, and I understand that you're l'shem shamayim, and I said, so we can disagree, but we still love each other. But a machlokes shaloi l'shem shamayim is, where respect is lost. It's about my ego versus your ego. My Kabbalah is bigger than, my Rebbe is bigger than yours, my Rosh Yeshiva. So what does the Yaris Dvash say? That is the sign that it's a machlokes l'shem shamayim. Two people have an argument, and then they disrespect each other. You know what that means? That means one of them is not having a machlokes l'shem shamayim. So we do have protocols for disagreement. I can really, 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 really disagree with you, and I really should, because I was born with a different parts of, with different attributes, with a whole different view of the world. I do, and you know what? And chiber yisera, I can marry within your family. I can eat. That is the sign of that is the protocol of machlokes. And let me share with you something. Yad Shol, Rabbi Yosef Fleischmann, who was the greatest Pesach in Galicia, or in Poland, that part of Poland in the world. This is the end of the 1800s. He asked an interesting question. He says, the Gemara says, why do we paskin like Beis Hill and not like Beis Shammai? So the Gemara says, because Beis Hill, they were very humble. And they were always magdim divrei Beis Shammai l'divreim. They always put Beis Shammai's words in front of their own. So the Yad Shol says, that's fantastic if it's a Midas contest. If you're looking who is more edel, well, you could say the guy who's magdim the other person's words, who's more humble. But this isn't a contest about edel. It's a contest about who's right halachically. So the Yad Shol says, and I think it's an obvious answer, he says, the person who's willing to listen more and really dig into what the other side's saying, right? What does it say? Ezu chacham haloimed mikol adam. That is the person who will ultimately be more correct. If you can listen to somebody who strongly disagrees with you and listen respectfully and hear every word and be magd, how do I know it's respectfully? Because you're magdim their words. You know what? You're going to be smarter for that. And that's why, by the way, on this program, we have everybody. We have all kinds of machlokes in halacha, hashkafa. We bring everybody. And the idea is that you listen till the end. And at the end, you'll make a much wiser decision. And, I'm in business. I deal a lot of times with CEOs. The wisest, smartest people, they sit in meetings. They don't say anything. They just ask questions. And they listen. Everybody's yelling their opinions. And the chacham, the kol dma madaka, he's listened to everything, and he said, with all the information, this is my decision. But you can only do that if you've heard everything. So there is a protocol to machlokes. It's with respect, it's with chiba, and to be mechaber the person even more. The person, or to go now, what did Bill Gates, certainly one of the wisest people who ever lived, say? He said, you learn more from the one customer who's unhappy than from the 99 who agree with you. That's what it says about Beis Hill. You know why we pass on like Beis Hill? They were magdim divrei Beis Shammai l'divrei. That's what the Yad Shol says. Okay, so now I want to go into the part of this. There's a big machlokes in Eretz Yisrael, which unfortunately has made the news, YouTube. I mean, you just can't avoid it. People lying down in the street, stopping cars. I have a daughter who lives in Eretz Yisrael. She said she couldn't go to work one day. Rosenblum is going to say how he went to a wedding. Nobody was there. Nobody showed up by the wedding because everybody was blocked in the traffic. So here's my question. We have a disagreement. Roiv Chachmei Yisrael are on one side, according to Jonathan Rosenblum. It's something like 90 to 2. I don't know. I don't keep box scores here. But it's certainly a Roiv Gama, right? It's a real Roiv. And we have one group on the other side who disagree. So what is the halacha? I'm going to throw at you a philosophical and a halachic shaila. Let me quote you. The Gemara says, Torah says, that if there's one zakin who doesn't listen to the rest of Klal Yisrael, he's called a zakin mamre. He's a zakin, he's a heretic, and he's punished. They kill him, right? The Gemara says the biggest Tan of his generation was Rebbe Lazar, and in the case of Tanner Shalachnoi, that was a case Gemara and Brachas. They argued over a Tanner Shalachnoi, very complicated in Hilchos Tumas and Taras, and it was all the Chachmei Yisrael on one side and him on the other side. And he said, the whole heavens agree with me. The Malachim, the angels, Hashem agrees with me. And they said, no, the halach is like us. There's no Torah b'Shemayim. And he said, if I'm correct, let the walls of the Beis Medrash bow. And they did. And Hachamim said, no, it's still Yachid v'Rabim, Halachic v'Rabim, listen to us. He said all kinds of miracles he did. They didn't listen. And they said, Rebbe Lazar, if you don't back down, we're going to put you in Nidui. And he didn't. And they put him in Nidui. It's called Taner Shalachnoi. Tanner that was surrounded by vitriol. The Gemara says, who was the Chacham HaGadol B'Dairei? Was the Kavya Bein Mahal. They wanted to make him Rosh Yeshiva in Yavna after Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai left. This is a Mishnah at the end of Adius. And he disagreed with the Chachamim on 4 halachas. Very complex. Tumah and Tara is dam shel yorik, is it metamed? The Mishnah says 4 different, really very, difficult, complex, and tumas v'taris is one of the cases where he agreed, in Taris, right? So the Mishnah says, Akavya bein mahal, 4 things he was made. He says, I'm telling you, I'm a witness, I saw. So they told him, Akavya, you have to, it's you can't argue with all the Chachamim in Klal Yisrael. We'll make you to have Bezdin here in Yavna. So what did he say? He said, Mutav Shani Kaira Shaita Kol Yamai. Better they should call me a Shaita and Loy Lases Rasha Achas Lefnei Amakim. And not to be a Rasha for 1 second in front of Hashem and not to do what I believe. Right? What did they do? They put him in Nidui. They excommunicated him. And what does the Mishnah say? Meis b'Niduya. He died in excommunication. The Saklu Aroinai. That's the koyach of Achrei Rabin Lahates. We have to follow. This is one side of the equation. And the other side of the equation is the Gemara in Shabbos. Gemara in Yavamis too, I think. Gemara in Shabbos. It's on Daf Kuf Lamed. I don't remember where it is in Yavamis. The Gemara says that Rebbe Lezer held that Machshirei Mila are also Deicha Shabbos. So it says, in the town of Rebbe Lezer, how you kursin eitzim b'Shabbos las chamim. They would cut the wood on Shabbos to make coals, to make the knife, the ismal of meal on Shabbos. They were machal Shabbos, the Mekaimei, right? And then it says, B'Mekaimei shel Reb Yaisi, the Gemara says, B'Mekaimei shel Reb Yaisi, he didn't believe that chicken and milk are unkosher. He has a pasuk, I think it says, he darshened it from Chalev Ima, he says, and a chicken doesn't have milk. I think that's what the Gemara says, right? The Gemara says, they let him alone, as the Gemara says, and in both cities, people lived long lives, the Gemara says. Why? Because a Gadol Hadayr is allowed to paskin the way he sees fit. That's it. So on one hand, you have the concept of Zakin Mamre. On the other hand, you have the concept of, you see they put Rebbe Eliezer Tana Shalachnai in Nidui. They put a Kavya ben Mahal the Gadol Adar in Nidui. And the other time we say Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Yossi were allowed to do what they wanted, B'Mekayman. So there's two Mahalchim in the Rishonim and Achreinim. Some say that in the case of, and why is this relevant? You have, a few Rabbanim, very few, who say, look, we think that this is a Xeris Hashmad, blah, 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 etc., what to do. And you have the Rav Chachma Yisrael, they're on the other side. What do we do? So there's different Mahalchim in the Achreinim. Some say he only did it b'mkaimei. If you want to have your shul, your yeshiva, and you say, look, this is our Kabbalah, this is our Messiah, this is what we do, that's fine. But when you want to darshan for Klal Yisrael, that already they put him in Nizai. The case of Rebbe Lezer is darshan for Klal Yisrael. Zaken Mamre is on Bezdin, it's for Klal Yisrael. The case of Kavya Bein Mahal was also for all, he wasn't doing it b'mkaimei. In the case of Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe Yossi was b'mkaimei. That's one Mahalach, which would create a problem today because clearly this is not b'mkaimei in all these demonstrations. And the other Mahalach that they say is it's where it's Nimnu v'Gamru, where all the Hachamim came together and they voted on it, and one guy says, no, not me, I'm out of here. In that case, he would be put in Nidu, which is the case of Rebbe Lezer by Tana Shalachnoi, which is the case of Zaken Mamre. And in this case, it would be problematic. Do we say there's a Nimnu v'Gamru? You could say, listen, there's actually a Chuvas Harajba. We say Achrei Rabim Lahates, and the Sefer Achinuch Paskins that Achrei Rabim Lahates is also Bizman Hazeh. It's Mitzvah Ayin Ches. He says, Noyeg b'kol Mokayim u'b'kol Zman b'scharim v'nekeves b'chiras roiv l'fi adzoyma. He says that's when there's a machloikis b'chachmis haTorah between great chachamim where they're equal or in the same stature. He says hadin noisin shaloi nasr miderech. We follow the majority, which is the same in our law. Since our English law, it's the same thing here in America. He says we have to, as a community, we have to follow majority. That's what the Torah says, Achrei Rabim. So it's interesting. The Beis Yosef brings a Rashba, and the Rashba says that the whole din is only when they sat together and they discussed it. Right? Where one heard the tinus of the other. So the question would be, Beis Yosef is in Choshen Mishpat Siman Yom Gimel. I don't know. That's a question you could ask today. I mean, there's newspapers. Everybody sort of knows the other side. Is that called where they had a discussion or not? I don't know the answer. I leave that to you. Would you say Achrei Rabim Lahates? In other words, the idea being, the way I read it is, you can't say Achrei Rabim Lahates. If somebody lives in Pichuch and he says, look, this is how I understand the Gemara. There's other people. They don't know, maybe if they heard my position, they would change their position. That's what the Rishonim say here, the Rashba. So now the question would be, in a time where there's a lot of messages back and forth, and there's press and Sfarim, would you say that it's considered that they each know each other's tinus or not? If it is, then you would have a real problem of Achrei Rabim Lahates. If not, so those are the two ways how they addressed. In the case of where b'mkaiman, you could say either because they didn't sit with everybody else, so there wasn't b'makem echad, so they just didn't know each other's arguments. Or you could say they didn't want to be mashpia on all of Klal Yisrael. And I think that's relevant to the machloikis today. Now here's interesting. Here's a fascinating clip from the Gadol Adar, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, the Steipler's son. Here's what he says about this faction.
היום שמעתי כאן מחוכם מיוחד בבני ברק שדיבר בציבור ואמר שאין שום בעיה להצביע למפלגת עץ כיוון שיש בשמה אודום גודל כיוון שיש להם אודום גודל שעומד בראשם וזה לא נקרא פגיע וראשיבר בענליב שאומר להצביע ג' רצינו לשאול מה דייטל של הרב
מה זה מפלגת עץ?
המפלגה השנייה, לא של הרב שטיימן, של ירושלים.
תגיד להם שזוק ממרם.
שזוק ממרם, זאת אומרת זה כנגד דייטל של הראשיבר אפילו שזה כמו מחלקת שמה וביסילל.
מגיע לסקילה.
ומה זה שונה ממחלקת בשמה ובסילל?
זוק ממרם, נו.
אומר לך תשובה.
Now, Reb Chaim doesn't issue words. He writes I've written him, he writes 4-word answers back. When he says the word Zaken Mamre, he much means Zaken Mamre. Now the problem is that the Rambam says Zaken Mamre is only Noig Bizbana Bezdin. I was curious, Reb Chaim, is he just using it like a euphemism? It's not like him. So I did a little research. And there's actually a tshuva from Reb Moshe Feinstein. This is a Choshen Mishpat Chelik Beis Siman Aleph, where Reb Moshe brings the Yerushalmi that says clearly, it's talking about a Zman of the Gemara, Shmuel, and Yitzchak bar Shmuel, and Shmuel bar Marsa, and he says that there is a din of Zakin Mamre in the time of the Gemara, clearly when it's not Bezdin, right? And the Shiloh Sechuvas Harash, there's a Chedushei Ramban, and Reb Moshe says, yes, there is a concept of Zakin Mamre Bizman Hazeh. So Reb Chaim is very interesting. He seems to be paskening that there's a concept of Zakin Mamre Bizman Hazeh. Second of all, Zakin Mamre means you don't actually have to, the way he's learning Pshat in the Rashba, you don't have to be sitting in one place with everybody else. But if you're very aware of my position, and I'm very aware of your position, and you would go against the Rav, the vast majority of the Rav, he said it would have a din of Zakin Mamre. And I think that's just a very interesting psak. This is obviously a very broad inyan. I will give a chabura on it Shabbos. If you're in Muncie, you could come Grand Park, Shul. Almost every topic we do, I do an hour before Mincha. And I was Shul on the corner of Grand Park, Grandview. It's usually around an hour and a half before Shkia every Shabbos day. If you're ever in the area, you're invited. Let's go to our guests. We're going to start with the head of the largest Choshen Mishpat Koil in Eretz Yisrael, as it was told to me, Hagoyin Reb Yosef Fleischmann. We have on the phone with us from Eretz Yisrael, Hagoyin Reb Yosef Fleischmann. He's the Rosh Koil of the Koil Choshen Mishpat in Yerushalayim. Welcome, Reb Fleischmann.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to join your program.
So, Rabbi Fleischmann, I want to ask you a number of Choshen Mishpat shilas that are relevant in regard to the slew of hafganas that are going on in Eretz Yisrael. Let's say you have a psak from your Rosh Yeshiva, and he says it's a Gzeres Hashmad, and therefore you have to go protest. And you go out and you protest. Now, are you allowed to damage people, third parties, for your hafganas? Because you say, listen, it's Gzeres Hashmad, it's Pikuach Nefesh, and, Ha'holech Lahatzil is potter from Nezek, and therefore I can damage, I can break, I can stop cars, businesses, break windows. What would be the halacha if as a dayan? How would you paskin this?
I don't think there's any heter really to break other people's property. A person who's holach lahatzil, it's only if it's damaged and it sort of because it's in the way and you need to damage it, but you can't just go ahead because you're a holach lahatzil starts throwing stones at people's windows because you're a holach lahatzil.
But what about if they believe that the way they can protest is by stopping traffic? And assuming that stopping traffic would be an isser, a mazik of garmi, etc., just let's do it as a possibility. Would he be able to say, listen, this is the direct way I'm being matzel by causing a big ruckus, and therefore I'm a ha'holech lahatzel, and therefore I can stop planes from going off, I can stop people from getting into the airport, whatever it is. What would you feel about that?
I mean, it's also a very far-fetched comparison because a ha'holech lahatzel, you see direct results in front of you. Here's someone's, let's say, running after him, trying to kill him, and you're going and you're actually saving him. As the issue is right now, it's imminent, and you can see that that's what you're doing. Here, it's not clear at all that you're actually going to accomplish anything, and therefore it's quite far-fetched to say so and to compare it for it. And also, some of these people are, very innocent in that, because put pressure. So you can find some other way of putting pressure.
Okay.
And about your point that you are causing other people down, it's definitely true. There are people who are losing salaries because of it, and there's a din called by Adam Amazik. So one of the Chadish Advarim is Shabbos. Shabbos is when you make it that a person can't work, you injure someone and therefore he can't work. So if a person, Gemara says you can also have Shabbos without Nezek, like the Baba Kama says it's possible to have Shabbos without Nezek. And the Gemara says if you lock someone in a room and prevent him from going out and doing his work, so then you can be chayav on Shabbos. So there's a machlokas mishonim. The Rambam the Rosh says that's only if you put him in the room and lock him up in the room. But the Rambam's Rosh is not really so clear. The Rambam doesn't say they have to push him into the room. So, but in any case, even if you say so, if it's Shabbos, so it's mamish chiv moment directly a Shabbos bottom, and if it's not Shabbos, so there'll at least be chayiv b'dinei shabayim because of dami. The Ramban says it's even more than Gami, that he says, because the regular case of Shabbos is more than Gami because it brings Bashar Abaya, because Gami is Machukis Tanon. Your mayor says you high for Gami, and there are Tanon that don't agree with Rabbi Meir, but Shabbos Ba'adam, which is the Gemara's case, we prevent someone from working, so then according to everyone, you high. So Ramban says must be that that's more than Gambi. And he explains that it's called the Hezek Nikah because the Hezek starts right now. But that's what Ramban says. But so therefore, certainly there are people around who are losing salaries, and even if the person gets a salary, so you're causing a loss to the employer, because the employer has to pay someone for a time that the person is not working, and that would probably fall under the category of mazik shibur shachabera, because he has a shibur on the worker to work, and you're making it that the worker can't work. So there's a fetus that says such a thing that would be like a mazik shibur shachabera. So therefore you are causing a hezek, and it could be that you chayv b'din adam, and mazik shibur shachabera is also chayv b'din adam, and certainly a person must be chayv b'din shemayim. So a person certainly has to think that it could be he's chayv money to people.
Now, clearly those who do the hafganis, they seem to have a heta. I don't know what it is. But, there is some history of hafganis in Yerushalayim that goes back to the Satmarav, etc. Even I don't know if in those cases they were stopping people from going to work and blocking roads. Is it possible that they hold that the din of a haylach lahatzil is even if it's not be'idne, even if it's delayed, there would be some svar of a haylach lahatzil? Let me put it to you this way, Rabbi Fleischmann. Let's assume this just for the purpose of lumdis, that they believe that what they're doing is helping. Right? And I don't, but I'm just for the purpose of lumdish, right? And they said, look, the only way to do it is to do it this way. And yes, it's not be'idne. It's going to happen. It's going to take 10 protests. We're going to block all the highways. We're going to stop ambulances from going through. We're going to disrupt all commerce. So the only way to do it is this way. So would that have a din of a haylach lahatzil? In other words, if we were to compare it to a regular case of haylach lahatzil, let's say somebody was going to kill somebody, and the only way to stop him was in advance doing something shaloi be'idnei, but that we believed would cause him to stop. You knew somebody was going to kill somebody,
right.
And you said,
if
you had Ruach HaKodesh, you had it. He sent an email out that tomorrow or next month at 2:00 he's going to kill somebody, and the only way to do it is by protesting in front of his house a month in advance so that he can. Would you say and to cause a hezek? If this Shiloh came to you in Bezdin afterwards and they said we knew that he sent an email and 30 days from now he was going to be mazeh, he was going to kill somebody. We were a haylach lahatzil, so for 30 days in a row we protested in his house and we blocked traffic. Would you make these people pay for those 30 days damage, or would you say you're a haylach lahatzil?
Don't really know. There's certainly on the person. First of all, it says that if a person threatens that he's going to do something, and he threatens to do it, so you don't always believe that a lot of threats. The Gemara says people threaten things and they don't carry them out. And in this case, it's certainly not clear cut that anything's going to happen. They passed laws and laws have been struck down. In the meantime, nothing happened to anyone, and it's not clear that anything will happen to anyone. So it certainly, and you see, even by someone like a Moshe, which it certainly is possible. If you know for sure that the person himself is holy limso someone, so you can be mazikim before.
The Shulchan Aruch in Shin Peches, the Mechaber in Shin Peches.
Right. But yet, if he just threatens to do it, so and it's not obvious that he's going to carry out his threat, so we say no. So here's a case which is quite far removed. It's not the first time they're trying to grasp Yeshiva Bachim. This has been going on for 60 years, and nothing's happened Bachim so far. So therefore, it's very distantly removed. You have all kinds of intim salomas. Intim salom, that's going to happen, and the person's going to go to the army, and they're going to be making shmadim, which is also not. There are a lot of people that go to the army. A lot of people have gone to the army and come out yatsa b'shalom from the army. So these are all a bunch of intim salomas.
So would you equate this, Rabbi Fleischmann? Would you equate this to the tshuva of the Noda B'Yehuda, who says you can't go to medical school on Shabbos? Maybe one day you'll save a life. He said, "I'm sorry, that doesn't rise to the level of pikuach nefesh, because one day something could happen." Would you equate
it's true in the Moshe also about that the person can't say that he wants. I would think that it's something like that. Probably.
Okay, now let me ask you.
Just like you wouldn't let a Kohen go to medical school and say that Moshe is true, but you wouldn't tell a Kohen that he can go to medical school and be in the time of the Mason, because everyone is going to say someone's right.
Well, except that in that case, you can always have a different doctor. Here they're saying they're the only people who are going to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
What would you say, Rabbi Fleischmann? Is there a din of achrei rabim lahatos bizman hazeh? If you have, 95 rabbanim saying something, and there's 5 rabbanim who paskin the other way, is there a din of achrei rabim lahatos?
Probably not, because no one sits down and talks with each other. It says even in Bezdin that in 3 days, so the halacha is, see, this mentions that they have to talk to each other. That they hear a case together, and then they sit down together, and then they decide. Here, you're 95%, you're 5%. Who decided who's going to be of the 95? Who's going to join your whatever is sort of your Sanhedrin, that you're going to decide who's the role. That's maybe the 95% is just stunned. Not right to be under the head than the 5% are. So it's very difficult to say such a thing. They're all by poskim, so there is such a thing. And there's also a concept even by poskim. Certain poskim carry more weight than others do. So you can't just say that because someone has a smicha or because he was hired to be a ram in the yeshiva that he's necessarily a posik.
Rabbi Fleischmann, let me ask you. We find, in my opinion, a stira in the Gemara. The Gemara says we have a concept of a zakein mamre, a zakein who doesn't listen. And there is a tape, I've heard the tape where the Stipler, Chaim Kanievsky, calls one of the parties here a zakein mamre. And there's Yerushalmi that says that there's a zakein mamre bizman hazeh, there's a Tshuvas Arosh that says there's a zakein mamre bizman hazeh, the Gris Moshe names on for a pashtus, there's a zakein mamre bizman hazeh, a zakein who's basically a sort of a heretic who goes against Rav Klal Yisrael. We also have, the Gemara says, by Akavia ben Mahal, the Mishnah says, he refused to listen to the Chachamim. So what did they do? They put him into Cherem, and when he died, Saklu Arayne, they threw stones at his aron. He maced Benida, the Saklu Arayne. We have in the case of Taner Shalachnai, where Rebbe Lezer didn't want to go along with everybody, so what did they do? They put him in Cherem. So you see that they said, we don't want to have one person disrupting all of Klal Yisrael. Mitzad Sheni, the Gemara in Shabbos says on Daf Kuf Lamed that Rebbe Lezer believed that Machshirei Mila Doicha Shabbos, so therefore, Kursin Eitzim, he would cut wood he would allow the city to cut wood to make coals to be able to make an Ismail on Shabbos.
But the Gemara says that in his place it's okay to do.
Right.
Okay.
And the Gemara says, and the same thing with Rabbi Yossi, that Rabbi Yossi says that he was matir milk together with oif, because he darshan chalev imay and a chicken doesn't have anything. So b'mkaimay they ate chicken cacciatore, or whatever, chicken with cheese chicken burgers. And so my question would be is, how come, and look, you're an Adam Gadol, so you could paskin. So how come in some times Chazal said, look, you're paskining, you're a nidui, and some places they allowed it? How would you explain that, Stira?
I would think that it depends really. Because in these cases, there was no. But he was the Rav of his town, and so he paskined in his town this way, and no one else was the Rav in the town. There's a big difference between whether if you're the Rav in Tzoria, so you're going to paskin in Tzoria like this. But if you have an issue that involves 1,000 communities, so you can't say that in your community you do like this. That's so. Those cases where a person would be a Zokinami is a person where he's not confined to a certain tzibur. He's saying something to everyone, and other people are also talking about everyone. So therefore, they're basically in a direct conflict with the cases like you mentioned. They were the resident of Yosef Fleischmann. So they were in their town, and they were the Rav, and no one else was of comparable stature to them. So therefore, they're justified in paskening in the way they held. And it was very mubusa. It was very grounded. It was based on drushes. These were huge people. I think in the other case where they put Nidri, like in the case of the Blazer, so there's a psak, of everyone, and they sat down together and they discussed it, and they didn't agree with him.
Now, Rabbi Fleischmann, in the protests that are going on in Yerushalayim, is a yeshiva bacha allowed to join them, or would he have a din of a machal shem shemayim?
Oh, I think the majority of the people think that it's considered to be a Chilul Hashem, because the Gemara says, the Gemara sort of almost talks exactly about such a thing. The Gemara in Yuma says at what's called the Chilul Hashem. So the Gemara says that
Hechidam Chilul Hashem.
Yeah. Then Avaya said, after that person should learn and learn Chumash, learn Mishnayos, be Mishamash Tabei Chum, he does business honestly and properly. Ma'abiyas almost love Asher Rabbi Shalom the Torah, Asher Rabbi Shalom the Torah. People, general populace who see such a person are going to say his parents should be happy that this boy learned Torah, and his Rebbe, they taught him Torah. Oilam Abiyas Shalom the Torah, Tony Shalom the Torah, Ru Kamanoam, Dwachav Kamam, Konamas of Allah Kasav, Vayamavi, Avdiata Yisrael Shabachaspa. Rabbi Shakor Shalom Shamash Tamechon, Aimas Abatan Bemun of Aindva Venachas and Abiyas, Abiyas Amasalov, Oilam Tony Shalom the Torah, Oilam Shalom the Torah. So and that's that, and Oilam. The Rabbi Shalom the Torah, Tony Shalom the Torah, Ru Kamam, Kol Masav, Kamam, Cholim Dwachav. That says that when the people say that this is not the right way to go. So basically, you see that you have to. It's very much based on the impression that you leave with other people. And I think most people in Eretz Yisrael and in the world who see such behavior aren't coming away saying that Ashrei Ovid Shalom Torah, Ashrei Rabba Shalom Torah. They more say Oil Torah Shalom Torah. People will be turned off. I mean, the general populace. If someone's stuck in traffic for 2 hours just because someone decided they wanted to demonstrate, he's not going to probably be very happy, and does not going to think that I want to send my son to yeshiva, and that's what's going to be of him.
Rabbi Fleischmann, if somebody were to give Maisa to a yeshiva that sent the Bachram out to protest, would you hold that? Two questions: would you hold he's Mekayim and mitzvahs, is he Mekayim tzedakah, or alternatively, would you say he has a din of a machzik yedei every avera? Because the Gemara says, the same Gemara on Daf Pevav in Yuma that you're quoting says that Chilul Hashem is one of the things that are not nischap or even on Yom Kippur. It's only nischap of a misa. It's in many ways it's as chamur as the Gimel Chamuris as Avodah Zarah, Gilei Rayin, Shviras Damim. Would you say somebody is A, Mekayim Maisa, or they would have to be mafresh more tzedakah? It cannot be nichnas into the Maisa. And B, would you say they have a din of a machzik yedei every avera?
The first question, I would think that person is still Mekayim Maisa, because you are helping people to learn. But if a person learns you don't know for sure that what's going to be. I mean, hopefully, it says that even if the person learns Torah, I'm sure a lot of people didn't go out and demonstrate, even if they went to such yeshivas. And so therefore, I don't think that a person could tell him that you didn't have the kind of dinner stuck up by giving money to the yeshiva. However, the fact that he's machzir there, it is something to think about because if that's the policy of the yeshiva, and he thinks that's not, and that his Rav tells him that this is an aveirus, so Hanami he should give his money to a place which doesn't send the people out to demonstrate, and probably that's what he does anyway.
Rabbi Fleischmann, thank you very much for sharing your valuable time with us.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, and wish you lots of atzlacha.
Amen. Kultov.
Okay.
We have on the phone with us from Eretz Yisrael, I believe it's from Yerushalayim, the famous writer and biographer Jonathan Rosenblum. In fact, I'm proud to say my wife is the youngest granddaughter of Shraga Feivel Mendelovich, Mr. Mendelowitz, and Jonathan did the English translation. I don't know if it was a translation.
No, not a translation. No.
Okay, of the English book about the biography of Rav Shraga Feivel. So it's an honor to have you on with us. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, David.
So as both as an ethicist, as a writer, as somebody who has their hands very much on the pulse of the current generation, in particular in Israel and Eretz Yisrael where you reside, could you explain to us here in America what's so bad about these demonstrations? I mean, Jews have such a long history of debate. It goes back to the beginning of time. And the Gemara says that it's like it sharpens their swords. If you play chess against the master, you become a good chess player, and if you play against, a mediocre or poor player, your chess game never gets better. So in Divrei Halacha, and we've always encouraged debate, and yet there seems to be a tremendous amount of acrimony against Peleg about what's going on here. What is the damage? What's wrong with it?
Well, first of all, let's make a distinction between debate and demonstrations. What do demonstrations have to do with debate? Yigal Rosen, Rabbi Yigal Rosen, the Rosh Hashiva of Or Yisrael, said this weekend is Shir Psicha. I mean, he's this person who's accompanied by police guards when he travels to his son-in-law's house in Bnei Brak, who's had demonstrations outside of his house from the so-called Peleg Yerushalmi. He said, well, come tell me what are you complaining about? Let's hear what your complaints are. Try and explain to us what you think has happened. What are your facts? Lay them out on the table. You want to debate? Come and debate. These demonstrations aren't about debate. They're not. There's no intellectual argument in violence. I mean, every single Gadol b'Yisrael, every single one, Rav Eliashiv, Rav Shach, when they were Zichronim Livracha, when they were talking about demonstrations, it was everything that ever was done was on Tanai, that there not be violence, that they not incite violence. What possible justification for this is there? I mean, I only hear it from I haven't talked to any secular Jews about what they think about this, except what I read in the newspapers. But I'm talking about the average Haredi who's stuck in traffic, who may be on the way to the hospital, who may be on the way, he has clients that he has to get to and misses 2 hours of clients because he's stuck in a traffic jam, who's on the way to Chasana. I've been at Chasanas where no one showed up for 2 hours because there was a demonstration outside of Bnei Brak. And they're so filled with anger. I mean, so outraged. Why don't the police clear them away faster? Why don't they stick them in jail longer? If that's how people in the Haredi world react to finding themselves stuck in traffic and endlessly, except when they have a chasana coming up at night, let's say the Shirat Junction, which is on the way to Kiryat Sefer, demonstrations for days on end. But as soon as one of the members of this kat are going to have a chasana in Kiryat Sefer, suddenly there's not a demonstration, so people can get to that chasana. So, first of all, the outrage that it creates, what it makes us look like in the eyes of the bigger Klal Yisrael. I told somebody I'm very involved in an organization called Kesher Yehudi, which goes on to makes one of the major things. It sets up karusas between frum and non-frum Jews. It's not the only organization like that, but 6,000 charusa pairs, and it's working with the pre-induction academies with 600 kids a year. But I said, why do we have to spend half of our time trying to answer questions about this? Why should this be the agenda? Why can't talk about Torah? We have to we start with explaining away this violence and what it's about, and it's inexplicable. And
so, would you say it sounds to me like you say it's a type of terrorism almost. We will not allow people to get to weddings. And it's only when it's our weddings, not when it's your weddings, not our. It's a type of terrorism in effect.
Well, for sure, it's even and you take whatever the cause would be, and no one knows what the cause is really. Like Rabbi Rosen said, let them come and tell me what are their times. They say, I am running a Hesder Yeshiva here. I'm running a Hesder Yeshiva. I mean, everyone knows that Or Yisrael is the strictest discipline of any yeshiva in the country, by far the strictest discipline of any yeshiva in the Litvische world. It is as far from a Hesder Yeshiva where every single boger of the yeshiva is in full-time learning 20 or 30 years later. To talk about this as a yeshiva Hesder, no one knows what their claims are. There's never any discussion of what the issue is. It's impossible to figure out what is their end game because you can't figure out what it is. It seems to me.
Wait, but Jonathan, let's go back. What is this doing to the Kiruv movement in Eretz Yisrael?
I don't have statistics on it. I mean, I'll give you a hashara from the point of view. There's amazing things that happen in Kiruv. There are amazing things. Sometimes something will be madlik neshama, and you would think that there was no chance of anything happening after a certain negative publicity about the community, and still people become frum and people are interested in knowing more about Yiddishkeit. And there is, I will say, most of the media, when they cover this group, they call them the extreme, the Peleg Yerushalmi, but even the secular public may be under the misapprehension that they represent a large percentage of the Lithuanian community. They represent a small percentage.
How small?
I would guess, in terms of a major Talmidei Chachamim, 2%, in the percentage of followers, maybe 10%. I don't think it's larger than that.
So what damage is it doing either to Kiruv? And let me give you a quote. This is from Rabbi Yaakov Drolman, Rashiva of Beis Yosef de Vardik. Mm-hmm. He said that he has the Kabbalah that the Haskalah movement in Europe, mm-hmm. which before Haskalah began, was basically 100% of Jews were Orthodox, and a post-Haskalah today, sadly, we're 10%. So we lost 90% of Klal Yisrael. He says he has the Kabbalah that one of the prime drivers that allowed Haskalah to get off the ground, was the machlokes between Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz and Rabbi Yankov Emden. That he says that there was such vitriol created, and it created such a laughing stock. It was mashbil, Keren Shal Torah, that he said it just allowed, people started looking at religion and saying it's a joke. And he said, and that was the and speaking to children today who see this, they look at you and they say, like, this is what people with beards and and they look like the most religious people. I was actually spoke someplace recently, and a bunch of Fruma kids said to me, they said, we've lost all respect. And I said to them, I said, do you think Kairach had looked like some rocker? I guarantee you that Kairach had a long beard and very long payas, and he never left the house carrying anything but svarim in each hand. I said, this is not represent. But I mean, my question to you is Rabbi Drolman said that this caused Haskalah, or was one of the primary drivers. Do you think that the Peleg Yerushalmi will one day we will look back and say, how many children became fry? How many children did not want to stay in learning? How many people, that's from in our community and external Talmud community, how it set the Kiruv movement back a generation by they took some view that they believe in, maybe truly, and created damage that could last for generations. Just as Haskalah, it's 250 years post-Mendelssohn, and we're still 90% religious. What's your feeling about that comment?
Well, I mean, without going into the history of Rabbi Drillman, for whom I have immense respect, but Rabbi Yeshua Eichenstein, who's a major Rosh Hashiva in Eretz Yisrael, told me I was driving into Bnei Brak, and he told me he has no question that there'll be 5,000 minimally korbanos, just from the lack of when the idea of Kavod Torah, when you had the machlokas between Rav Yonasan Eibschitz and Rav Yaakov Emden, so when major figures, use the, call each other one, to be called a Sabbatean and so forth, the pejoratives that were going around were, I know some of the historians attribute the rise of the Reform movement as well to that machlokas, but it doesn't. He told me, he said that there will be those korbanos. Certainly, the idea of Das Torah. How does Das Torah survive when? How does Das Torah survive when with the types of pejoratives, the way that the disparagement of Gedolim. But this is not, by the way, this is not a new thing. I have to tell you that 20 years ago, Rav Abram Rabitz, who was an MK for a long time, the original Degel Torah representative, told me the greatest threat to Israel, I mean, he was exaggerating, this is a little bit of hyperbole, but he said, the greatest threat to our community today is the Yeted Neman. That was the Yeted Neman, which has now become the Peles, but when everybody who was connected with it was thrown out, to create such a cynicism.
That's the mouthpiece. That is the mouthpiece of the Peleg.
The Peles. That's Peles. They were once
the mouthpiece of Peleg was once the Yeted before the current.
Before Shimon Glick bought them out and just bought the newspaper
yes.
But there's two things that they did. First of all, for 15 years, using minimal titles of kavod for Aharon Tenenbaum, for Rav Michael Yehuda Lefkowitz, for Rav Chaim Kanievsky, to deliberately be mashpil. I mean, this little punk, this propagandist editor who left the yeshiva at 18, despite having a very rich father, to just find ways to dig away at any kavod except for his chosen gadol at that time, Rav Eliashiv, but to just minimize any titles of kavod and so forth. That's destructive in and of itself. But the whole tone was always so critical. Ahavas Yisrael was absent. No Ahavas Yisrael. Everybody was subject to criticism. Everybody wasn't good enough. The new Haredim, it wasn't just the secular world, it was the new Haredim, anybody who went out to work, anybody who did anything that they were all just ridiculed and scorned and boozed. And it's funny that people were put out to subject to such attacks for working, for instance, by a guy who went out to work when he was 18, or by a business manager of that who was a computer salesman before he came into the Yeted Neman. Nothing wrong with being a computer salesman, but how do you become the standard bearer of everybody should be learning forever and ever, and anyone who isn't is a failure and a disgrace and is bringing down our community? It's also that one of the big differences is do you take responsibility for Klal Yisrael or not? I had a discussion on a flight back from America recently with somebody, a son of a Rosh Hashiva that I'm personally very close to, have been close to for almost 40 years. And he was in America collecting and spreading the propaganda that there are hundreds of boys sitting in jail and collecting money for these demonstrations. And I said to him, where's your sense of responsibility? What's your big taina on Rav Aharon Tenenbaum that he gave some tacit support to the Nachal Haredi? What are we supposed to do about boys who don't fit into the system? We're just supposed to say goodbye to them, wave them goodbye to anybody who isn't capable or doesn't fit in a system of full day learning forever, and it feels like he's entrapped in a system. There's nothing that can be done for them. There's nothing we should worry about. We just say goodbye. So he said, they destroyed Klal Yisrael. we worried about the weaker, the so-called weaker elements in our society, and that's destroyed us. Well, those weaker elements are a substantial percentage of the society, and if you want to keep them all in yeshiva, you want to keep everybody in yeshiva, you'll rot the yeshivas from inside. You're not going to get more Torah out of this. You'll get less Torah out of this. We're spending money to keep people in Kolo who, if we take the Mitsuyanim, okay, this is a different subject, but I'm just saying the lack of concern for Klal Yisrael, once with respect to what is the image of Torah in the world. I've written 10 biographies of Gedolei Torah. If there was one thing that unites all of them, it's their absolute focus on Kiddush Hashem in all situations, and how I remember in the Rav Shraga Feivel book, which is a long time ago, so I don't remember everything, but how makpid he was on students when they first came to Beis Medrash Elyon, that people not be seen just lollygagging around during the war, when other people, when they might have a deferment as divinity students, but not to be seen in some way that is going to cause pain to somebody whose son is off at the front or something. The sensitivity to other people's feelings. I don't see that there's any cheshbon about Klal Yisrael. What's going to be with Klal Yisrael? What's going to be with Kiruv? They don't cheshbon out their own kids. What happens to a 14-year-old kid? What happens to kids who are brought to demonstrations at 14, who are thrown into jail? What happens to a 17-year-old in jail? The late Rav Shlomo Papenheim, one of the leaders of the Ada, told me, we always oppose demonstrations, and one of the biggest reasons that we oppose demonstrations is the destructive impact of even one night in jail. And they talk about the people who are going to jail. The only ones who are going to jail are ones who were who they set up to go to jail by not registering, by not having anything to do with registering for the draft. That way, if they get caught driving to Eilat, if they get caught speeding, if they get caught if they get caught doing anything else and they check and they see, oh, you didn't register for the draft, they're setting them up for jail just to prove themselves right. What is their end game? What are they trying to do?
So, Jonathan, do you understand? When somebody speaks to you, it sounds like a fringe lunatic group that is irresponsible and at some level right from to Klal Yisrael, right? So all the children who will become fry, they are right from too. They are right of the Kiruv movement. Do you understand why? And I spoke to Shmulevis yesterday. I go back with him many years.
Which one? Rav Meir?
No, Rav Meir Shmulevis.
Yeah.
Paul was by Chavrusa for years in the Mir. So I spoke, and he said our biggest problem are American Rosh Yeshivas who support this Kachel Mishigayim. He said. And he said, and they are the ones creating so many problems. Do you understand what is it about them that has enamored, quote unquote, respectable Rosh Yeshivas in America?
Do I understand? No, I don't. I really don't. I mean, somehow, okay, I'll tell you. Let's say the editor of Hapelis, who is that, by the way? Nati Grossman, somebody who is orchestrating this. Now, he is a master propagandist. He can go around America. He may wrap himself in America in the cloak of, we're the true defenders of the faith. We are the pure Hemshech. Let's say we bear the mantle of Rav Shach and so forth. But first of all, even Rav Shach said, whoever comes after me, you don't lead in the same way. A leader doesn't mean that you do exactly the same thing, because if you try to do exactly the same thing, situations change. The door changes. The situation of the Haredi public changes. The poverty changes. Everything changes. But he wraps himself in this mantle, and it's always good to be pure. Satmar has a certain purity. Brisk has a certain purity about it. And somebody jokingly said about this group, well, they claim to have the Shitas of Satmar. They claim to have the Shitas of Brisk to be the pure anti-Zionists, except for one thing. They take the money. I mean, they don't even have... I mean, there is a certain purity to those who say we are against the Zionist state. We are against this. But they don't take their money. These guys do. I mean,
Does SAC, Rabbi Auerbach's yeshiva, take money from the government?
Yeah, sure, they all do. They never come out against that. They will take any. They're in some ways freer about taking from government programs. No, that is not their shita to dispense with government funding. So, I don't know what
Jonathan, would you say, as somebody who resides in Eretz Yisrael and is a moderate, I mean, and not an ideologue, not somebody who criticizes freely, do you see them as Reitvim of Klal Yisrael in their current state?
Oh, David, it's such a charged term here. It was a term that was used before.
Okay, so let me rephrase that.
I just can't. I think they're a very destructive force. It's a destructive saying. We're not talking about debates. I mean, let's remember, the Talmidim of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai could still intermarry with one another. They could still respect each other's teachers.
The Mishnah says, yeah.
So the first question that I think we've gone past the point of no return in terms of the Peleg in a small Lithuanian community. It's not that we're so huge that we can just splinter off into multiple groups. The first question in Shidduchim used to be, does he smoke? Now the first question is, does the family get hapelas, or are they associated with the Peleg Yerushalayim or Eitz, however you want to call it? I mean,
I think the question has changed, Jonathan. It used to be, does he smoke? And now the question is, what's he smoking?
Okay, we'll leave that aside. That's for another show. I was just talking to Rob in Chicago about this, but that's for another show. But this is, I just don't, unless you're, I mean, we borrowed. Where does this days of rage come from? What does this have to do with Yiddishkeit? Days of rage. I remember
days of rage come from Hamas, doesn't it? Doesn't it come from the
Hamas used it here. It goes. The first days of rage that I remember, I'm old enough to remember, the 1968 Democratic Convention. The SDS was a slogan, Days of Rage. It's been used by Hamas. It's been used in the Intifadas. It's been used by the Black Lives Matter for riots in the States. Who are we emulating? Who are our models? How did we get to this point? And it's interesting. Rav Aharon Feldman, who I'm very close to, once told me that.
By the way, Rav Aharon Feldman has written a letter strongly supporting Peleg. That's what Rabbi Shmuel Levitz told me.
Okay, I can't speak to that, and I owe Rav Aharon was the sandik of my first son. I learned in his shir. He is a person whose contributions to Klal Yisrael are very great. He has children who are associated with this Peleg, and I can't. I'm not defending, and I'm not addressing that. I just want to tell you a message that he told me once. He once told me during the years when the Yerushalmi kids used to go out on Shabbos afternoon and throw stones on the remote roads. So I think he was living in Sanhedrin or Chevet or Ezra's Torah at the time, and he would go out and try to stop them. Now, 40 years ago, he was a distinguished Rosh Hashiva, looked like a distinguished Talmid Chacham. He said these kids just laughed at him. What happens to 10-year-olds who learn to laugh at any authority, who learn to laugh at, for whom this is their way of expression, this is their fun, throwing stones, this is their fun, blocking traffic? I mean, they can't even possibly have the idea of the repercussions. These are kids out there, and they don't even know what it is for a woman who might be going into labor, might be in labor. If you're coming from Kiryat Sefer, there's no hospital nearby. I mean, there's no cheshbon here. It sort of reminds me of the old communists who they're trying to provoke a war to show that they were right. They're trying to, I think they've already had a big hand in the Supreme Court decision against the draft law the most recent draft law that was enacted.
Well, Jonathan, that's what I wanted to ask you. They believe that their demonstrations will stop the law of Dios that the yeshiva boys have to register. Do you think their demonstrations will help?
No, I think they're the most counterproductive. They're the most counterproductive thing that could possibly happen. If you were sitting on the Supreme Court, now you're a secular leftist, you're sitting on the Supreme Court, and you're asked to judge whether the Supreme Court will leave that aside, a separate subject of the amount of power that they wield here. But you're asked to rule on the draft law, you could have fulfilled your quotas of people going into the army via boys registering for Nachal Haredi who were long out of yeshivas. But instead, you have this group saying, out there every day, calling other Jews Nazis, calling policemen Nazis, calling frum boys with their tzitzit out who are involved in some program in the army, even Avrechim who are learning computer programming in a completely sexually segregated environment, and calling them Nazis and Oker Yisrael and whatever, and putting up signs in every building and not letting them daven and throwing them out of shul. If you're a Supreme Court justice and you see this all over and again all the time, the evil Zionists, the wretched Zionists, and you say, this is how you relate to an army which the Code does defend us. It defends us, right? Boys are dying. Boys are going into, and this is how you respond. And then you want us to grant you. I would go just the opposite way, just psychology, to say, and now we're going to be acquiescent in your exemption. You've done exactly the opposite. You've despised them. If you could show a little hakoras hatov, if you could show a little respect, if you could show anything for even the sacrifices made by soldiers, forget about the larger institutional structure, but nothing like that. I think they did. And I'm not sure that they didn't want to bring about a Supreme Court decision against that draft law, even though now the Knesset cannot go back and enact a more liberal, a more favorable draft law. Even though this one is very good, they can't do that now because the Supreme Court's already ruled that this is inequitable. So the Supreme Court will rule again. So they made things worse, but it's like the old communists. We have to make things terrible so to bring about the revolution. I don't know what they're trying to do. Are they trying to set off a civil war here? We don't have the guns. We're not the majority.
Jonathan, what would you say to American who are approached for tzedakah by members of Peleg or Peleg, right? What would you say? And they, when they come and they say we're the pure, and when somebody gives tzedakah to a cause like this, we have now in America this fellow Rabbi Tambak. He's collecting money for Peleg, for their schools, etc. What would you say to somebody who wants to write a check to them? Are they doing something that's l'toivas Kal Yisrael, or are they throwing a rock at the survival of Kal Yisrael?
I mean, I think they're just ill-informed. They may be well-intentioned people, but they're doing something that first of all, taking away. Ask them if would they go to Rav Chaim Kanievsky for a bracha? Would they go to Rav Aharon Tenenbaum for a bracha? Who have they looked up to all the years? And now they're saying they don't know anything. They're trying to create a new situation. They want everybody to go in. I mean, the charges that they make are so ludicrous. Inform yourself first. I mean, Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch in Germany supported a secular education in schools. It's been more or less the norm in America. But he never supported, for instance, that in Yerushalayim, when in the days of Rav Yeshua Leib Diskin, that they should have a school modeled on the Frankfurt School in Yerushalayim. He said, that's the business of Yerushalayim. You can't imagine the booze, the humiliation that American Rosh Hashivas have come when they come in. They say they want to talk to Rav Gershon Edelstein, and they want to talk to the leading Torah leaders. They won't even. They're barely chorus them. They say, why? You want to tell us what to do? You think that you know more about what's going on in Israel than we do? You think you're more in tune with the situation? Where do you have the chutzpah? Where do you have the chutzpah to start thinking that you know more? The Novominsker Rebbe, who wrote a letter that was coerced into writing a letter, but he retracted it and said, I don't know what's going on here. They've managed to alienate everybody here. Rav Don Sego, who was always trying to remain moderate and neutral, and let's be friends, and so forth and so on. Finally said, just recently, they went away from the Derech HaYashar, and Paka Mehem Yiras Shemayim.
What did he say? I'm sorry. What
Paka Mehem, that it went out from them all the Yiras Shemayim. I mean, when Rav Chaim Kanievsky writes about a group of, as you say, frum-looking Jews, she'ein Yiras Shemayim b'makom hazeh. I mean, it's a spiritual blow too, and they're supporting that. If they could even explain why they want to support this group and why they want to give them further credence and why they want to allow this to go on, but they're sitting far, far away. Why would they think that they understand the situation and should be paskening? That all the years.
I'll tell you something, Jonathan. That the halacha of ein l'chacham ela shebiyamecha, right? The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah on right before Re'u Bezdin. I forgot what daf it is, but it's right on top of where the Re'u Bezdin starts. It says ein l'chacham navi ela shebiyamecha. And so the Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Yom Kippurim, when it talks about if you have a machlokes between doctors as to what type of refuah to use, so the Sharatzian brings from the Rabbeinu Manayach that it doesn't just refer to chronologically ein l'chacham ela shebiyamecha, ein l'chanavi ela shebiyamecha, but he says it's geopolitically as well. He says, where on the globe is he? He says, the doctor of this city understands the illness of this city better than a doctor who lives at the same time in a different city. You should go after the doctor that is in your particular area. Right. And I think that's sort of a metaphor for what you're saying. It's like, why does somebody, could you imagine there's somebody here in the town that I live, Muncie, who's always going to these protests and screaming. And I would ask this fellow, imagine if Rav Steinman came out with a letter and he said, in Forshey, the women should walk on one side of the sidewalk and the meta. This is my opinion from here in Bnei Brak. And the response would be, I'm living here in Forshey now for 40 years. What do you know about Forshey? And yet at the same time, people feel very comfortable opining about matters where they don't live. It's 6,000 miles away, writing letters, getting involved in machlokes. And I think that would be that's sort of. And I heard this same response from Rav Eichenstein. We had him here on the program.
Yeah.
He said, "Why are people who live in a different country in different time zones? Why are they getting involved in a very local machlokes with people who are living it and understand the details?" And I think that is halachically what the Sharatzian brings for Rabbeinu Manayach.
Well, there is, it's very fashionable in America, to keep your anti-Zionism pure, like the state has no merit. It's nothing good has ever come out of it. It's all vicious. It's easy talk. Some of my sons sometimes tell me, he said, in the mirror, when we meet the Americans in the mirror, they're so fervent in their anti-Zionism because they have no relationship to it. It sounds cool, but they're just talking. There's so much talking, without any substance behind it. And I remember together, Rav Aharon Feldman and I started the English Yated Ne'eman. Okay, so I remember, and that was at the beginning of the Degel Torah, which was controversial itself because it split up Degel and Agudat Yisrael into two parties. And I remember Rav Aharon telling me at the time, he said, we're talking about Rav Shach. He said, but he said, for me, the Iker is Rav Aharon Leib Steinman because I used to live near him in Bnei Brak, and he's a person out of the public limelight. He's a person who's never sought the limelight. But when he's involved in this, then I know that it's pure. I know that it's good. I know that it's thought out. I know that it's wise. The way it was his whole discussion at that point. When Rav Shach was undisputed, the leader of the Lithuanian community, undisputed, and the decision to form a new party was his decision and his alone. But the support of Rav Steinman for Rav Feldman was talking the awe with which he spoke of him. What happened? Did somebody think that that something happened to him from those years till now?
Well, Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us, and
I hope I've been able to clear. I hope I've given at least a touch of clarity, because it is very distressing. It's very distressing, because you hear people saying, "What happened to the Rosh Hashivas? They fall on their heads." I mean, what happened? What's going on in America? Mehechi Tesi that they suddenly are opining, and that they it's a very surprising and a very distressing situation.
Thank you very much for joining us, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you. Have a good Shabbat.
We have on the phone with us Rabbi Aharon Tenenbaum, who's a mechaber of many Sfarim, and he's a representative of the faction, a Peleg, a Yerushalmi, the ones that are making all the protests in Eretz Yisrael right now. Let's hear what he has to say. So, Rabbi Tenenbaum, can you explain to Americans who don't live in Israel and don't necessarily understand, maybe aren't on the ground, understand the issues? We see all the protests. We see people blocking roads, lying down on the street. Could you explain to us what it's about? Yes. What are the issues?
So this kind of protest, this is not new in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is a different mentality. This kind of protest starts in the time from the Rabbi Shmuel Diskin, Rabbi Yosef Fleischmann, the Chazon Ish, in Gius Bones, in the big Milchome about Gius Bones, the Chazon Ish sent everybody to fight and to make protest, and the same like today, and the police, it's the same pictures like today. It's the same history. This is not new. That's it. And you have to understand, Gius Bnei Yeshivas is the Horik Valiava. This is the track from Rav Shach, and Chazon Ish, and all the Gdolei Yisrael. It's a tchillah from the Horik Valiava. In the Horik Valiava, it's another. We have another way. This is a fight, Milchemes Kiyum, and this is the only option that we have.
So, is it possible then, when somebody is fighting this Milchama, to is there any limitations? Could you break what you want? Can you damage what you want? Is there any limitation to a Milchama of Yereg Val Yaakov?
Nobody break, and nobody mazik. This is all the fake news business, like Trump says. It's a real fake news business. It's an Eidel in Galit. The only problem is that the traffic problem. Beside this is Eidel Choshev in Galit, Amid Chachomim, and he daven, he says Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shomayim, and Shirei HaMaroche. It's not no Manish Edelkeit. The media is very against the Bnei Torah. The Bnei Torah is very far from the media. It's the Chalto V'Shamno from the Yadus Achreidis. No internet, no iPhone, no all the connection with the media, and that's why the tzibur hear only one side. And
Rabbi Tenenbaum, I had on the.
You see, I don't know what.
Rabbi Tenenbaum, we spoke to somebody before who said he went to the chasana.
Yes.
And nobody showed up on time because it was by Kiryat Sefer and they had blocked the road, and there was nobody by the chasana. He said the chasana started 2 hours late, and the chasana was very upset, and the kala was very upset. And then I have a son-in-law in Eretz Yisrael. He said that my daughter has a job. She said she couldn't get to her job because the roads were blocked. So it's causing a lot of hezek to people. Imagine if by your wedding nobody showed up. Or imagine you have to go to work. So
number one,
does Yereg Val Yaakov allow you to do this or not?
So two answers about this. First of all, before the protest, everybody knows it's going to be a protest. So it's not. So everybody knows, and This is number one. Number two, you have to understand the police close the street. The police make it, not the protesters. כדי לציבור, כדי להמריד את הציבור כנגדנו, כדי wir sollen uns feintom und beschuldigen.
Rabbi Tambak, it's hard for somebody who's making a wedding when they send out the invitation a month in advance or 3 weeks in advance. I don't know what Minig Eretz Yisrael is, to know that there's going to be a protest that night when they get married, and it's hard to change a chasana hall the same day of the wedding.
So why you didn't ask the same question when it's a big levaya from Rav Ovadia Yosef or all the Gdolei Israel? It's also a big traffic problem, and nobody asked this question. Everybody understands that's it. And this is a milchemes kiyum. We fight and the future of the Kumedi Kedoires. What?
Rabbi Tambak, so that's a good question, and let me say that when somebody dies, right, when there's a levaya, nobody knows when they're going to die, and they don't control that. Or alternatively, like if there's a snowstorm, yes, people's weddings get canceled because of snowstorms, or people don't go to work if there's a big snowstorm. But for somebody to go out and be a dayim, say, we're going to make a protest, and people will get married in empty halls, or thousands and thousands of people won't get to their jobs, isn't that a mazik biyadayim?
No, because you have to understand, this is the only kli, this is milchemes kiyum. You have to understand, if somebody tell you he take 3,000 people, young boys to the church every year, then you ask me this question. It's a mitzvah to lechalel Shabbos. It's a loch in Shulchan. You have to lechalel Shabbos lehatzil nefesh achas.
Hello, I'm just listening. So basically, since it's shmad, just about anything is permissible. We could do anything because in
not anything.
Why not?
Not anything, but
almost anything.
You have to understand. I'm a ben Eretz Yisrael. I live in Eretz Yisrael all the years in the neighborhood of Yerushalayim. And if you have Shmiras Shabbos in Eretz Yisrael, this is the schuz the Afghanis. If you already have is gives bonus, nituche mesim, chitute shafre, everything is mikoyach the Afghanis. Rav Eliashiv wrote tshuve b'shas the Afghanis in Pesach Tikve. This is also so he wrote, we are the Afghanis, we don't have Yiddishkeit in Eretz Yisrael. So that's it. That's the price. What can I do? That's the price.
Rabbi Tamak, I learned for many years in Eretz Yisrael, and I remember Hafganis. I learned there for 5 years. They were usually in Kikar Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't going to big highways, and the idea was, look, this is our neighborhood. This is our people. We could stop a wedding here. If you work in this neighborhood, you're doing it sort of on our condition. But the Hafganis, they were short. I never remember all the 5 years I was in Eretz Yisrael, and I remember all kinds of where they blocked. I don't remember them blocking Highway 1. I don't remember them blocking ambulances. I don't remember them blocking weddings. I don't remember them blocking bar mitzvahs. So you say this is
all right, but you
I don't see that.
The big difference between all the Maroches, between Gius Bonus and Gius Bonim, Gius Bnei Yeshivas, between the Chitute Shachve and all the Chilul Shabbos. Chilul Shabbos, this is not it's not about me. It's about all the Bnei Eretz Yisrael. It's about the Matzah in Eretz Yisrael. This is one kind of fight. We fight and the next doires, Aleinu val Boneinu val Bnei Boneinu. Al Tzitzeinu val Tzitzoi Tzitzeinu. This is another kind of fight.
So it is new. So this is a new fight. No, so before you said this is an old fight, it's been going on for generations, I only want to point out that this is not an old fight, this is a new fight. They never before stopped weddings, they never before stopped ambulances, so this is a new thing. I was there.
In the Gears bonus, Chazonish sent everybody to Tel Aviv, and he said to Reb Menachem Porush, wilde Betzach, blutig Tzach. this is not. It's not a new story. You know, the Briskerov, the David Soloveitchik tell the story. So the Briskerov, everybody asked the Briskerov, why you say to go to the Afghanis and give bonus? The Shittim Chazanish from the Briskerov is against Afghanis because the Tzionim shudim al shtichus domim. So why in the gives bonus you send everybody to go to the Afghanis while Afghanis? You know, unbelievable. You have to look at the history in this time. So he says, because this problem in gives bonus is the Orig Valyavel. If it's the Orig Valyavel, so what, we don't have a problem with Shtichus Domim. It's right, it's Sakonas Shtichus Domim, but this is the Orig Valyavel. And the same track we have about Yus Bnei Yeshiva, and it's not a secret, everybody know, even officially it's calling Yus Bnei Yeshiva, but we know that it's Negea to Yede Erlecheid. Yede Erlecheid is
Rabbi, you say it's Negea to every Erlecheid. Would you consider, 90% of the Gedolim in Eretz Yisrael don't agree? Would you say Rav Steinman is an Erlecheid? Would you say Rav Michal Yehuda Lepkovich is an Erlecheid? Would you say Rav Chaim Kanievsky is an Erlecheid? Like, are all these old people, they're 100 years old, he's the 8th Berevel Yashiv, he's the son of the Stipler, are they all becoming fry? Like, are they not enough Shemrei Torah mitzvahs? Like,
okay, I will tell you. It's a Mishnah in ADS. Yochid mit Rabim v'Rabim mit Yochid. So midin Yochid v'Rabim aloche kerabim is aloche keyochid. What I mean, listen. This is not a political problem, and this is not Shmuel Erbach or Trankanievsky. This is not the issue. I'm not a Talmud of Shmuel Erbach. I'm a Talmud of Moshe Shmuel Shapira, Zecher Tzadik V'Kodesh Livroch.
So you
the
say,
old way is, what?
So you're saying Yochid v'Rabim halacha k'Yochid, you said?
Yochid miti Rabim. This is the only problem with Shmuel Erbach.
But can I ask you a question? The Stipler's son is the son of the Stipler. He knows what he held, right? Rav Steinman is the Irish of Rav Shach. You have 90%. Isn't there a halacha of Achrei Rabim Lahates? I mean, don't we believe?
I tell you, the
Stipler, Rav Chaim Kanievsky called him a Zakin Mamre. He said, when you have one person going against all of Klal Yisrael, anybody could get up tomorrow.
Okay, I will tell you I tell you the story. I'm a Talmud from Moshe Shmuel Shapira and from Rav Shach, and Baruch Hashem Zochisi Leikon Yisrael Stipler and Gdolei Yisrael. I'm a real Talmud Zochisi L'Shamshei B'Kodesh in this subject, Vada Stal and Nachal HaCharedi. My Rebbe, Moshe Shmuel Shapira, I wrote about them a couple of forums, Nichoicho Shel Torah, and more forums. And he fight a big milchome, and he's a very able man, kulo yoimer neimus atero. But in this case, he fight unbelievable milchome against the Nachal HaCharedi and against all the story, because he know this is not the subject, is not the Shvach Bochum. The Medina tried to make a hole.
How many years ago? But how many years ago? How many years ago was Ramosha Shmuel Nifta?
Before 11 years ago.
So let me ask you a question. You're a Talmud
But
Chacham,
I want to correct you something. You have to understand. Shmuel Erbach is not alone.
It's a miyat, right? We agree it's a small miyat. It's certainly a small miyat, right? So let me ask you a question. What would be you're a Talmud Chacham? What would be the halacha if you have a zakin and he paskins against the rest of Klal Yisrael, and they say, no, you have to change yours, and he says, what do you mean? I'm a yachid mipi rabim. I was a Talmud of, my Rebbe was this one, was that one. I'm a Talmud of Erchavyed ben Mahal. I'm a Talmud of Rabbi Eliezer by the Tanner Shalach. I have grace Kabbalahs from Heilige Rebbes and Heilige Zaydis. Would you say he's a Zakin Mamre, or would you say no? He has a big Rebbe. He's allowed to go against everybody.
Listen, I want to tell you something. In Eretz Yisrael, nobody asks your question. That's it. I can't tell you more than this. I'm very miser in Kovet Chachomim. I'm very miser in Kovet Chachomim, and and we have the Kovet HaTorah is the base of the Yiddishkeit, and we mechadet all the Gdolim, and we not say and Gdolim words like Zokim Mamre and all this stuff, but understand.
As a tzibur, what do you do when you have 90% go one way and 10 go the other way, and the 10 say, you know what, we don't believe in Achrei Rabbim Lahatais because we come from Mipi Rabbim, and therefore we are going to split Klal Yisrael into pieces because, and then what happens? Another group comes along who has another 10%, and they say, you know what, we're Yachid Mipi Rabbim, and I'm going to give you a list of 200 Rabbanim out of there's 100,000 Rabbanim in Eretz Yisrael. Isn't this the destruction of Klal Yisrael when everybody who has a shita runs around and each but it's more than that. It's not like he's paskening l'mkaimai, he's staying in his base medrash. You know. But
listen, this is not a political problem. We Talmidei Rav Shach, Talmidei Lemalo Bakodesh, Biskerov, Bechol Wasserman, Chaznish, all the Gdolei Israel. We have a Masoyer.
But they say they also
we're not changing. This is number one. Number two, this it's an optic. It's you have to understand. This control and all a big chalik from the Rabbanim don't have a choice. That's it. If you want money for your yeshiva, if you want a yeshiva, you have to. You don't have a choice. That's it.
But Rabbi Tommy, you can say the same thing. Rabbi Tommy, you can say the same argument the other way, that the Rabbanim who
the other way, no. We don't have money, we don't have nothing. Anim ve'vyoinim. You spoke about anim ve'vyoinim. Mamish anim ve'vyoinim moisri nefesh.
Now let me ask you another question, Rabbi Tambek. Would you agree that because of the actions of that are occurring here, a lot of Freya people and Fruma are looking at this, they see them blocking traffic, they say, feh. To be a Fruma Yid, it's a disgusting thing. To be a Haredi is a terrible thing. It's destroying the Kiruv movement in Eretz Yisrael. And more than that, I've spoken to boys in America who say they see this and they want to take the yarmulkes off. So somebody has a shita.
So the answer is
I didn't finish my question, okay?
Yes.
Somebody has a shita, he says, I believe that I have a shita, and because of my shita, I could do something that make such a Chilul Hashem that it'll cause 100,000 Jews to leave Yiddishkeit. I have a right to. It's my shita. So does somebody have a right to have a shita that could cause 100,000 people to say, you know, does somebody have a right to have a shita that could do? And because if they're wrong, a Chilul Hashem is einei nischaper ela b'misa. Anybody who does this, would you play Russian roulette? Would you put a pistol at your head and say, if I pull the trigger, I'm sure there's no bullet in here. It's a small chance. If I pull it, though, I'm going to die. Would you take such a chance? Because if you're wrong, all the people who are part of the Peleg is eilem chelik le'elam haba.
Okay, so let me answer you. First of all, this Taine, I remember when a young bocher, this Taine, you can hear from the Mizrahi, from the young Israel, never the Haredim ask this question. Afghanistan is not a new protesting, is not a new thing in Eretz Yisrael. This is number one. Number two, I want to explain you. The non-religion media is not so against this Afghanistan like the Haredish media. You have to understand it. I hear an interview in Galei Tzahal in Israel. So the Freie people is says for the so he says and it's mamish unbelievable to see the Mesiras Nefesh and the ich will nicht so sagen auf Englisch die Starkheit die stehen auf ihre Koines und das Starkheit it's mamish meoyer stylish. This is what
but I saw the media.
The issue. I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah.
What?
I see Freya people on YouTube. I see clips of Freya ladies in pants screaming. The worst things. These are Freya people screaming at the Fruma. It's not the Fruma. You see the
I hear a lot.
I'll send you we'll play the clips on the air of them screaming, this lady screaming, all you religious Jews, it's the worst imaginable things. You see Fry is screaming. I mean, I have the video clips. I'm not imagining
I know. You have, he make provocatures. He me beweist Punkte besser Bild. You know what's the media. I know from inside, from the Yeshiva World website. I know he's working together with in Israel, the website in Israel, against the Bnei Torah. I know from inside. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So you're saying it's not
in Israel, everybody likes the Bnei Torah. The only problem is the media, and the problem is that in America nobody know another side. Nobody know it's a big side, big Torah Israel in this side. Nobody know nothing, even dry information, simple information. Even nobody know nothing. This is a big problem, you know. You see,
but how does that
you have to hear something.
You have to sit with
somebody like me. I don't know English.
But Rabbi, how does that do away with Chilul Hashem? At the end of the day, if somebody's a ganif, right, and he steals $100 and nobody knows about it, it's not a Chilul Hashem. If that person steals $100 and the media is there and it causes a very big Chilul Hashem, it's ein in a schapper. Bad luck.
Yeah.
So
the Chilul Hashem is the media. The Halachic media.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Tombeck, for joining us, okay?
Okay, so
Rabbi Tombeck thinks it's Kiddush Hashem, what's going on, all the blockages. And if the irreligious look at it, the secular, and they say, wow, look at the Mesiras Nefesh. Well, let's listen to a few soundtracks off of YouTube and see what do they really think. If, having your roads blocked for hours on end, people being blocked, let's get a third party's opinion. Is it a Kiddush Hashem or not? Now here's Rav Shach's view about demonstrating and disrupting public life. Let's hear what Rav Shach, and this is the first time in 3 years that we've played a clip that's not in English. Well, actually the second. We did the other one with Rav Chaim today.
נשמח ונקבל את ארצנו, לא חוששים, לא במריבות, לא במחלוקת, לא באלימות, חלילה, לא באלימות, על פי נימוי הנר, מותר, באלימות אם אפשר למסור את זה, לדין שלא מותר, למסור את זה למשטרה אפילו. בטח לא באים להרוג את מישהו, אבל כדי להפחיד אותו. אבל אנחנו לא צריכים ללכת, אנחנו צריכים ללכת כמו בני תורה, כמו אנשים. לא באלימות, מה שהם עושים אנחנו לא חיים. אנחנו חיים, אנחנו נעשה. אנחנו יכולים להגיד להם שאתם גם לא תעשו, אבל אם אתם לא תעשו, אתם אבל מחוקק, אתם המפלגים, ואתם עשיתם את הדין לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא. שאתם פוגעים את כלל ישראל.